Not to ruin your pony projects from a bunch of people that have big pony projects that some of them have been very ruined and some of them haven't been. I'm tired. They have a fat list of notes here. I only have two, so I'm gonna let them speak. Minty, you're up first.
Managing expectations. So it says don't jump for a 90 minutes long movie right away. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up, during the collab panel, was talking about one guy who wanted to do a 90 minutes long movie. And the thing is that he barely had anything to show for it, not even animation. And the thing is that whenever you look at a studio that does, that does movies, they'll usually start with shorts, or they just hire people who already had experience in movies. Do not jump into something you won't be able to do because you'll crash hard.
Yep.
I brought Kill Your Darlings. First version of Luna's Determination was a mess. I had so much more story involved into that 5 minutes. And the problem is that when you have more than 5 minutes of story that you want to cram in 5 minutes, it makes a mess that you're not going to be able to work with. And eventually I realized that what I was working on, all the work that I was adding and adding and adding, would have just add diminishing returns to the project. And eventually I realized I need to stop, cancel that project, restart it from scratch, and do something that actually works, that's actually not fundamentally broken. And one of the reasons why, Luna's Determination took a bit longer than expected. I just had to kill that darling.
So on the killing your darlings part, I want to give an example because we're kind of like also telling personal stories of what's on these topics of what we've experienced with these things. For Dimensional Shift, which if y'all don't know, Dimensional Shift is the game that I'm testing in there. It's been in development for several years. I'm the one that leads the project. We've got about 30 contractors. Can't call them employees because otherwise we'd have to pay taxes on them. To West Virginia for some reason. And so anywho, we spent a whole extra year doing writing because I didn't want to kill some darlings. And the thing is that I preached about this. I preached about, Dreamy Wings and Ambient Light didn't kill his darlings, and that's why the game sucked, and then I ended up doing the same thing without even realizing. And my reasoning was, I made this story and it fits, and I know it works even though it's garbage. It works at least from a functional standpoint. And so I held on to it because I didn't know what Lone Rider was going to make because he's a scary individual. For those of you who know him, you know what that means. And so for a year, I held on to that, and it was horrible for my team and just horrible for progress. Until finally, I just had to tell Lone and Aruza, look, I am not even going to touch this story. Y'all write it. You're smart enough to do it. Just give it to me when it's finished, and I'm not going to complain about it. And so they did. And now it's an awesome story. They ended up incorporating a lot of the stuff that I had originally had in there, not because they thought I was going to go apeshit on them, but just because, it was good stuff. It just needed to be reworked, right? So, if you don't kill your darlings, especially in big projects, that can end up leading to extreme delays or even, in a lot of cases, just complete failure in development of the project.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, I deal with a writing group from time to time that only has like 350 words that you have to use to tell a story.
Yeah.
And sometimes you write a page worth of words and you have to narrow it down, and that's kind of the same thing. Kill the darlings, but you want it to be concise, A to B.
Yes.
And that's always the issue, because you're like, no, this has to be done to make sense.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be about consensus. There's always different reasons, but ultimately there's something that you're holding on to. Every one of us has probably experienced this from a creator standpoint. There's something that you've held on to because you have an emotional attachment to it, even though it's only hindering you. those are those darlings that you need to kill. Anyway, next time.
Well, actually, to go with that, don't think of killing your darling as taking something and just throwing it in the trash. Sometimes there's stuff that can be salvaged out of it. For example, if you have other projects that you want to reuse some of those ideas that didn't work quite well for that project, but could work very well for another one. For example, Luna's Determination. There's a lot of ideas that I had for it, and some of those ideas became what became the beginning of Harmony. And it really helps because some of those ideas can finally actually turn to fruition just by the fact that I had some blank canvas to start them with. So, and a lot of people, whenever they look at projects and those projects just feel bloated, a lot of it is just that all those ideas just clash together because they try to make it fit just one tiny box instead of just taking what didn't work at that point and just trying to keep it for another project. You're going to notice in video games, for example, some of the ideas that they had for one video game didn't work. But they keep it for the sequel because by then they got the time and the opportunity to actually flesh out the ideas that they had and actually reflect on those. So one of the things I was also bringing up was also a viable framework of production. Sometimes you'll have very good ideas, very ambitious ideas, but realize too late into development, the hardware that I have for that is not going to be capable of achieving that. And one of the things that I'm thinking of is the cloud that I have in the beginning of Harmony. And one of the things with the clouds is that
You're late.
I know.
Hey, the train was home on time.
I made a fashionable entrance.
Did we even introduce who we were?
That would help.
Good job.
I assume that most people there already saw us from the.
How many of y'all were here for the other panel? That's only like happy. This is Vincent Visions. He does animation. I'm Sapphire Sistering. I do sound design. This is Paramere Animations.
What
He
do I
doesn't
do?
do animation. That's Hinty Root, obviously. If you don't know who that is, you need to check yourself.
Check my channel. There's a new thing like right now.
Yeah.
After the panel.
I had to follow him at Ponies Online last year.
That is EG Studios. How do you say your name? Say the full thing.
EG Studios.
No.
And
Your real name.
my real name? Really?
Yeah.
You want me to give it away?
You literally have it on your card.
Okay, fine. Enrique Ganea Studios.
There you go.
My full
That
name.
Studios, and he does animation. And you,
I don't do animation.
You do writing.
Silver Screen.
Yes.
What do you do?
I'm the writer-director of the Fallout Equestria
That.
animated series, Wasteland Productions.
Come to this panel tomorrow.
Yeah, we have a panel tomorrow, 10:15.
Anyway,
Here,
back-
B Square.
Back to viable frameworks and actually making sure you can do what you want to do.
So one of the things with the beginning environment it became a big trouble was that the idea that I had was that I wanted to have big heavy weather with tons of clouds, and the approach that I had for that was what if I use procedural noise. I crunched down the contrast with that procedural noise and put that in volumetrics. And with Eevee, what it basically does, it just splits into tons of tiny slices and then combines them and then shades those slices. And if you do it well, it starts to look like clouds. And when I started trying it, it looked incredible. I was trying only tiny bits of clouds at the time. I didn't think of the whole thing. And trying to make all those clouds work in 3D space was a nightmare. I eventually realized that because the preview render only shows a cube for all the clouds, I basically had to work just guessing the whole thing. And eventually realized there's got to be a better way. And I realized that with the show, whenever they had clouds, it was just a model that was shaped like a cloud. And I realized, why couldn't I do it in 3D? And they're just taking puffs and just sculpting them with the little swirls of the clouds. And those clouds are technically inferior in terms of techniques. It's basically just 3D models that look like clouds, and I just shade them to look a bit like mashed potatoes. And technically, it's less technical than has procedural noise, but I can actually see what I'm doing. It looks a bit more simplified, but it actually looks like what I want it to look instead of looking like what the computer thinks it should look like. And the shadows don't break because it's not tiny slices that weird shadows at certain angles. So it was so much easier at that point.
Sometimes the high-tech solution is not the right solution.
Actually, most of the time, the high-tech solution is not the right solution. I mean, especially so, Ansys, you know this from video games. Like, most computers are potatoes, right? And even if you try and optimize that code, you can't. There's a point where you're just not going to have enough rendering power for certain things, right? So you've got to be smart. And actually, this is kind of just like a side note. It's a really good reason to not do your biggest projects that you love so much right off the bat once you start, because all you're going to do is run yourself into the ground trying to do a bunch of stuff the hard way, because you watch that one tutorial on YouTube that does it the hard way, and you didn't have the experience to realize, oh, I could just download xClouds from Blender Shop and use that.
Yeah,
So-
but I wanted something stylized, and it still works. But the thing too with that kind of technology, you'll realize if you look at the behind the scenes for any animated movie or any, well, besides Pixar, but any movie that requires a lot of 3D work, the tech that they use is actually old. They actually use stuff that's needed to be proven for full-scale production. So whenever they use Maya, they would use the latest version, but they'd probably have something like 3 years old, just because their pipeline would need to be tested for every single thing that could go wrong with that new version of Maya. The new renderer would be maybe like 2 versions of difference, just because they would need something stable for whole production. Because sometimes you can't just change the renderer, because sometimes the images wouldn't look the same between versions. So sometimes if you have frames rendered by different versions, they just start flickering because the different whiteness.
Yeah, just don't always update to the latest piece of software. Especially, I remember when Blender 3 came out. Do any of y'all use Blender? Okay, none of y'all basically. So Blender is you can make milkshakes in it, and
You're not wrong,
$3
though.
at Walmart.
you can make digital milk. It's a 3D modeling software. It's open source. Anyway, they recently came out with, now it's version 4, but back in they recently came out with version 3, and I had some individuals on the team like, oh, we should get version 3. It has all this stuff. No, it was buggy. It didn't work. We put our 3D model in there, and then when we opened it into another one, and it's like its face was all messed up. Don't always be quick to jump onto the next piece of software.
Like right now for Project Undercloud Remake, which the trailer just came out, I'm still sticking with version 3.6, even though 4.0 just came out. There's a couple of neat features I'm really excited to try, but I'm going to try them for the next project, and maybe I might open a shot just to see what it looks like, but no, just as a curiosity rather than actually doing work with it.
EG, you look bored. What do you want to say?
Oh no, I'm fine.
Yeah, look at your sheet.
All right. Oh, you finished with your arithmetic?
No, we'll just.
Well, technically I'm not finished, but
No, go ahead.
I want to bite some food.
Yeah, he's not. He's
The
not
man is
finished.
hungry and he has waited a while for
I'm
the...
made out of bones.
He's not finished, but we've got an entire 3-page essay.
Alright,
right
I might as
here.
well share my stuff. About I don't know where to start. There's a lot to say.
Oh.
If you're starting a project, starting your passion project, whether it's like a series or a book or a game, any kind, just start small. Experiment what you have and work yourself from there. But more importantly is don't let the project control you. You control it. And what do I mean by that? If you start feeling the weight on your project too much, you are gonna have a lot of doubts, a lot of anxiety, depression, and it's gonna break you hard. And I went through that a lot from last year, to the point that I almost wanted to be sent to a mental hospital. I kid you not, it was horrible. But the one thing that saved my life is just talk about it to the closest people I know, and who know how to handle projects like these. Don't be afraid to ask for help too. Have people collaborate with you, because they're your heroes too. Because not everything it can be done by yourself only. You have people around you. I got Saf, who's been helping me, making sure my project is legal enough to profit out of. What? What?
Okay.
And I got Shadow, who's been helping me how to simplify it. I got him, who has proofread my stuff before. Like.
How much of your stuff?
Like the first few drafts.
Yeah, first few drafts, a couple episodes.
Yeah.
How much of it was strongly almost non-consensual?
It was.
Just kidding.
But yeah, and those people around you are just your best people who can help you out. Like, at least 2 to 5 people around you who can be your artists, background artists, voice actors, any kind. They will help you how to organize your project without any stress.
Okay,
And more important, what?
Okay. You wanted to say something about collabing with people.
Alright. Yeah, so collabing with people, especially people you don't know, is really, really hard. So what you want to do instead of collabing with people you don't know is do something maybe yourself, so that maybe others will know you. In correlation, you'll end up knowing them, because maybe they're less... if they're bigger than you, they're more likely to reach down maybe to you to ask for help, especially if you're really shy or antisocial, like some people I
This
know.
fandom.
Yeah, especially.
I was in this fandom?
What?
You speak
Yeah.
of heresy.
Yes. So if you really want on a collaborative project or something, maybe start out with something yourself, so that when they see what you've done, they're like, "Aw, heck, maybe this guy can help us," and maybe you should put yourself out more.
Tell me about how you ended up collaborating with me.
With you?
Yeah.
Well, first he sent me an email going, "Hey, I'm Saf," and he sent me like multiple paragraphs going, "This is what I do." And
I tried to recruit him for Dimensional Shift.
Yeah, he really wanted to recruit me, which, I was still new at the time, so I'm like, I don't know if I would be recruitable, but he does sound stuff, I've learned, so I'm like, all right, and then I'll let you do a lot of my sound part video, especially since he was making fun of a lot of my audio that I was doing myself. For myself, I was just like putting in random like sounds and stuff from YouTube that he didn't like. So he's like, "Hey, why don't you make something good for once?" So then I just gave him a shot at some animations. So if I want something done good, I'll always send it to him. No, basically.
So what about
Peer pressure.
What about those few times, bud? There's a few
Which
animations
few
up there.
times?
There's a few animations up there recently.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that you did or the ones that I
The
did?
one you did.
Which one? The one I just put out, or
Yeah.
what? Well,
Yeah.
if it's a smaller project
I'm
that
messing
I want to do,
I know.
I don't want to bother you with small
And
stuff.
that's okay.
But
That's okay.
if I want something really professional, like if I work if I work harder and longer on something, I want the actual audio and everything to look nicer too. Like I don't want to work harder on a project and then not get Saf to do the audio. That just sounds silly, because then an audio for a bigger animation wouldn't be good.
I paid him, by the way, to say all this stuff.
So
I have some things to say about collaboration as well, actually. Yeah, just like EG was saying, I think this is something that all of us on this table can relate to, and anyone out there who's also tried making your own projects. There are times when you feel, when you hit a wall and you feel like you start to get those thoughts like, oh, I'm not good enough for this. Like anything I put out, like no one likes it. Like I don't know if I can do this. You start to get kind of, you kind of get into that like depressive state of not even really wanting to do it anymore. Personally, I think collaboration is such an incredible tool for helping to keep you motivated to actually move through productions. Because when you're working on something by yourself, you can just say, I guess I don't really have to do this, and then just give up on it. But if you're collaborating with people, it's almost like you've made a promise, and now you just have to keep going on it,
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Like that, honestly, for Dimensional Shift, sometimes it really does suck to work on that, because there's a lot. It's just so much sometimes, And I think one of my least favorite times is when Friday rolls around and I have to give a report to the patrons, and I have to say, not much happened this week, and it's like the 4th week in a row because not much happened, you know. This thing sometimes goes slow, but you know, the fact that I'm working with a bunch of people and I have all those patrons backing me, you know, that helps me push along instead of saying, "Yep, I'm giving this up. I'm quitting. I'm not gonna do that."
Yeah. Same here, because like if I, like you said, if I start a project alone, I'm much more likely to abandon it than if I was with other people. Because I can't tell you how many projects I like start up a new Toon Boom Harmony file. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sketch out some like stuff to see what looks good. I'll like start like making like rigs and stuff, and I'm like, never mind. I don't want to do this. I just wasted all my time.
And so I guess to turn that into kind of a tip to use, don't be afraid to show your work in progresses to other people, especially friends, that will give you good critiques and support, right? Shadow may kill me for this, but I don't know. And I may be
Plenty of
wrong,
reasons to.
but don't give me that look. So I think there have probably been several projects. It's been years. It's been 4 years. I don't remember. But I know that there have been instances where she was like very nervous about doing a project and just wanted to quit and give up. And I sat there and pestered her like an ass, and because I really wanted her to do it because I knew it would make her happy. And she finally did it, and now she's happy, right?
You just gave me another thing to mention. Like,
Go ahead.
there are people who are gonna be telling you that there are gonna be people telling you that it may seem like a difficult task, but you make it. Like, the more important thing is like you gotta accept reality. That's the most important thing to learn. Like, it sucks. Like, it's not saying, like, you're gonna have friends telling you that it's gonna be difficult to get there, but take your time. Like, it's saying, like, they're not telling you that your project's gonna suffer. You're gonna lose. Like, no, they're not being negative. They're being supportive in the most realistic way, but they're showing enough empathy to tell you that you're gonna make it in time. Just take it. Just don't rush. Don't take your time. Just
be an optimist, but be a realist.
Exactly.
So,
and like as at times I've been taking your words the wrong way, feeling like if they were personal, but no, they were. It's general. It's a general statement.
So
General statement.
on critiques, kind of, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, like I was about to say, that's another thing in my subjects.
So real quick on critiques, there goes the train. It left the station.
Critiques are sometimes the most critical, but not the most heated.
Okay, so there,
I'm trying to get it on the track.
Last year, there was this animation. It was a flash animation. It's like with Octavia and Vinyl Scratch. I hope that guy's not in here, poor dude. So like, and he worked like 10 years on that animation, and like he was getting a bunch of praise because he worked for 10 years on it. But like, honestly, take that away. Objectively, was it that good of a story? It could have had improvements. It had errors, you know. And so, like, I think, and I don't know the story of that, but I see projects that are like that. Like people will sit there and say, "Oh, it's beautiful, it's amazing," you know, and just because they're trying to be nice and not offend them by giving them a critique. Like, the most helpful thing you could do for me as a sound designer is tell me that something I'm making sounds like doo-doo. Because if I put it out there and it's humiliating, right? And it's just gonna hurt my reputation in the future as an artist. Similarly for everybody else at this table, you know, like the chin thing was Celestia.
Oh, right. I fixed it at least.
Yeah, he and missing out, Celestia has this weird thing going on with her chin.
Yep.
And it's still kind of there, but it was really there to the point where she looked like an old lady with a recessed chin.
To be fair, she's an old lady with a recessed chin.
but like mega turkey neck, you know?
Yep.
And so I told him, look, man, you've got to change this. It looks horrible.
And I changed
And
it.
he did.
Although, on the counterpart, there's a thing that I also want to mention with whenever you have tiny things that
Tiny
go
details.
Tiny details, not to that point of like smaller details. Like expect imperfections, and one of the reasons why I'm saying that is people do not look at the goof section on IMDb before watching a movie to set their decision.
Yeah.
You're gonna get tiny mistakes showing up in your project, and being nitpicky about those mistakes instead of thinking of the greater picture and the storytelling and the things that immerse people in a story that you want to tell. Like, I don't want people to just start freaking out about tiny things. For example, if you have characters walking and the walk cycle doesn't perfectly match on the very next shot, which it happens sometimes.
Whatever.
It's
Yeah,
perfectly
big deal.
fine.
Well-
And it's the same for video games. Sometimes there's bugs, and SGDQ loves those when they can be used for speedrunning.
You're gonna mention
Yeah, going back to the whole like passion does not equal quality. Like, I noticed that in this fandom, they think, oh, a new animation is gonna be good, 10 out of 10, and it's like people tend to forget when making a project, and not just for like ponies, but like a movie or video game, or whatever. Like, they think, oh, as long as the visuals are good, that means it's automatically great. But no,
the writing.
the
No,
visuals
writing.
are just surface level. But what's most important in anything is going to be the writing.
Yes.
And if your writing sucks, your
whole
whole
thing
project
sucks.
falls apart. Like, if your writing suffers, your whole project suffers. And no amount of like pretty visuals or fancy graphics is gonna fix all of that. Like, think of your project like a skeleton. Think of your project like you know, like a human body, right? The skin, the muscles, that's gonna be the graphics. The heart, the brain, the lungs, the
Right.
skeletal bones, that's gonna be the writing. Like, it's gonna be your character, it's gonna be your subtext, it's gonna be the plot, it's gonna be the world building, everything is gonna build up to that. And if your writing is not that good, your whole project's gonna suffer. And I see a lot of like projects, oh well, the visuals are nice, but it doesn't make that much of an impact.
That's a great point, and that brings me to something else that I wanted to talk about too. This is an example of what not to do. I wanted to talk about collabing again because we've been talking about like the benefits of collaboration, but how do you end up collabing with people? Like, how do you reach out to people? How do you pitch your project so that people will want to be a part of it? One thing you really don't want to do, yeah, you guys had a panel on it. But if I could just that thing again about passion, I see people doing this all the time. All the time, I see people go, hey, does anyone want to make a video game with me? Does anyone want to make like an animation with me? I have all these plans for things, and they have all this passion for it, but they don't have any scripts, they don't have any storyboards, they don't have a design document. They're just asking people if they want to be a part of this thing that they're really passionate about, and they're planning a lot about it. But that's just not the way to go about getting people excited to like join your project. If you want people to be excited about joining your project, you have to have, I mean, this is how I even got my Fallout Equestria project going. Was I had a couple scripts written, I had a very detailed plan, schedule for how I was wanting to like make it actually happen. And that is what got people on board, was having a plan and having actual like physical things to show for what I was thinking of, so that people could actually see, okay, this is possible, now I want to be a part of it.
And I don't know if you remember, but when I first heard about your project through Burr, I think it was, I came in and I grilled you. Because I was making
very
sure,
nervous.
is this going to be one of those projects that's just going to fall on its face and disappoint a bunch of people, and now I'm gonna be short of workers because nobody wants to work with projects anymore.
Because trust me, like, the amount of projects I've been a part of who were so passionate and immediately got canceled, not gonna lie, you can make a drinking game out of it.
This is why you treat every project as an actual pitch with actual evidence. And even if you have, here's the first episode in storyboard,
Right.
you have at least something to go off of.
You really have to put in the work. Your passion and your planning isn't enough.
Yeah.
Like that's why pre-production exists.
Yeah, during pre-production, you have the concept, they call it vertical slice. Basically, they want to see if a tiny amount of every single discipline that is involved can do something that's consistent that actually works. Usually they use it whenever they have an animated movie that wants to check if the backgrounds, the characters, the lighting, and all the separate aspects with all they have at the moment can blend together well. And I think it's very important, for example, if you have a big project, to do a very small part, which is test if you're actually capable of doing anything at all, and also check if it scales well. So, and that's scaling is also very important because you can't also do the whole project as vertical slices, because those vertical slices are usually kind of messy from the back, just to make sure that they actually work well together. And sometimes you're going to have projects where they just try to make everything just look good for the trailer and they don't think about how it's going to scale for everything else.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't typically like contact voice actors until I have a final script, because the final script implies that I am satisfied enough with the script to actually start production.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there may be rewrites, there might be scene adjustments, but those are common amongst big productions. As long as you have something to start with, like you have your core concept down, it's enough to actually start production. Then you should start handing your stuff off to other people.
What's another topic y'all want to talk about?
It's
Well,
also
yeah, I want to bring up saying that look at that. And I also have him here on my I have him here too.
Use the mic.
I have him here. Yeah, basically, yeah. When you're giving feedback, just be open with it. Be patient with it. Show respect with it. And there might be stuff that you won't agree with, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that you will agree with that will help you on the long
Yeah,
run.
like don't be afraid to give critiques to someone's project. Like don't
Don't be-
destroy them.
don't-
Like don't be
don't be
deconstructive,
mean.
but like just say it's like this is great, but here's something that you could help improve on.
Yeah.
It's like tell if you want to see creators improve, tell them what they're doing wrong, because 10, 20 years down the line they're gonna look back and they're gonna like, oh crap, what have I done? I'm better than that. Like, why didn't no one tell me this sooner?
Yeah.
It's like, please, give critique, so none of us will regret any of that later.
Yeah.
Well, it's always better to start with going, okay, I don't agree with this because it doesn't fit my mindset, but here's what I think, and if it doesn't line up with what you are getting, but you see where they're coming from, that's better than going, no, it's bad.
Well, yeah, and that is, of course, important, is actually giving helpful critiques, because saying, oh, I think your video is bad and you suck is obviously not a good critique.
That's bad fake
And
criticism.
even I would even say, saying oh, well, I don't like your visuals, or I don't like your music. Tell me why, because that could help me improve. Otherwise, I'm just gonna sit there self-conscious and moping, like, man, he really didn't like my music. I must be a piece of junk, you know. But on a different topic, to kind of shift it around, I want to talk about something I think gets thrown under the rug a lot in terms of working on projects and making sure you finish them, right? Because this is about how not to ruin your pony project. So it's important to take your time and others' time seriously, especially your own. It's a lot easier to take other people's time seriously, right? You're like, oh, well, I gotta go to work. I can't work. Okay, sure, yeah. You can have patience with that, but so many people I've seen who are directors or even just, small collaborators and whatnot, they will not take their own time and their own health seriously, and I'm looking at every single one of us here.
Yes, I'm guilty of us too.
Yep. And it's very important that you give yourself breaks, and that you, man, I realized just a little while ago that I've only, it's been 12 hours since I last ate, and I just ate a granola bar in there because some lady was nice enough to give me one, and I was over there shaking because I'm so tired. You gotta take care of yourself. So don't do that.
You may have the passion of a burning sun, but if you're burnt out, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Work-life balance exists for a reason.
Yes.
Well, this sort of goes into a topic that we may bring up later that I was going to bring up, but it ties into the fact that you especially need to be wary of your own time, because it goes into if this is just a hobby, then why are you making yourself suffer so much because of it? Because it's something you should be enjoying. Now, granted, some things what we hate, like lip syncing or physics passes. Those are work, but that's like, we tolerate that because we know the end product is going to enjoy us. But at the end of the day, we need to be motivated enough to continue our end product. And oftentimes that motivation comes from the fact of like, I want to do this because it's a passion of mine. And and oftentimes, like I know for me, I can't expect much payment because I upload to infrequently, don't follow YouTube's regime. But because of systems like that, again, is the reason why, as you pointed out, like work-life balance, and also the fact of like we can't. Actually, this does something. I do not ruin it. So you have to be careful about what expectations that you communicate. Because I've learned if like once you start putting deadlines on stuff, I feel like that especially can be a hindrance to like not only others' time but your own time. And that's why people don't.
What was that game? Cyberpunk 2077?
2077. Yes.
Yeah. Like, you remember? Yeah.
The original launch, it's gotten better because they had time.
Yeah, but what happened when it first released?
Everything was buggy.
It was garbage because they didn't take the time. That's why you always make sure your release dates are actually reasonable.
Or you just don't give release dates.
That's my policy.
It's also worth mentioning that with that kind of project, if you take a break, you can actually get to step back and actually see, look at yourself and see where you're wasting your time. Because sometimes you're going to have projects where, because the motto is work smart, not hard.
Yes.
And I remember a project under Cloud 2, one of the things that I did was that I was pulling all-nighters to do things that nowadays I wouldn't even think of doing because I was just wasting my time redoing things that I already did because I didn't really know how to set up my things properly. I wasted my time doing con in just the wrong approach. And if I just stopped for a moment, thought about what I was doing to actually do it properly, I would have taken maybe a third of the time, and all of it just because I didn't take up the right time.
And that goes into, I think, what's your thought. I may be wrong, but like, why do you even do this project in the first place?
Yes, that's what I wanted to get into.
Why are you even doing this? What inspires you? I know why I'm making Dimensional Shift. Because I love it and because I want a job doing game design in the future, right? So I take it a lot more seriously than I take my music. You know, I mean, I've got so many unfinished projects, but I don't care because I'm not gonna like hurt myself putting those out there because it's just a hobby, right? So think about that. Why are you doing this? And that doesn't mean like it can be garbage, right? That doesn't mean you can't put passion into it. But like, is this starting to affect other parts of your life? Is it starting to really weigh on you? You know, that like, it can be like a toxic relationship. You just need to cut it out of your life for a little bit.
Are you putting yourself under crunch when there's nothing but yourself in charge?
No crunch.
Trust me, the biggest mean boss to me is myself.
We all are that.
That's another
So
thing
stop
to
it. Get some help.
That's another thing to mention. Don't crunch time your work.
Don't crunch time your work if you can't afford to pay for it.
Exactly. Same goes for me. Like my project, which is codenamed Project Paradise for now. The reason why I'm working on it is like I eventually want to start writing my own animated shows, my own animated movies, but perhaps publishing them as a manga comic first, because sometimes like your best stories can be sold off perfectly as a book, and my series just tackles on, it's basically like revisiting MLP again, but this time in a much more keen on adulthood, finding happiness in your adulthood, and also finding your spiritual self. And there's so much inspiration I like to write, and that's what keeps me motivated, just continue being a writer in animation.
Yeah, Seth was getting into the topic that I wanted to get into, which is like why. And you really want to know why, because you don't want to go into a project having the wrong reasons or the wrong motivations, because you will very quickly lose your course and you will lose your passion. So like me, for example, like I have different reasons for why I want to do mine. For those of you that were in the previous panel, you saw Sonata. She's the main character in my upcoming one, and you know, I want to bring that up is because Sonata and the rest of the Dazzlings are basically, for the most part, like unused source material, or they have potential. We know that Hasbro's probably not going to do anything new with them. So for me, it gives us the chance of like, well, if they're not going to do it, if I want to see them in like these scenarios that I don't think any of their studios would do, why not just make it for myself? For me, that's a fun idea to do. But it's also because I was inspired off of, if you ever heard of Light 262, he's an artist up on Artist. He made this really cool like alternate universe comic. And his design for that siren is why I actually had this project to start at to begin with, because I was inspired by it. But, you know, those are only some of the reasons why I wanted to do that, is because it's untapped territory. It's exciting. You can kind of do that. And again, it's that kind of stuff you want to stick with as a point of direction. Like you need to know where your direction is going. Because especially nowadays where YouTube is cracking down on its systems, and we think we've all seen how unfriendly it is towards animators. You can't go with I would not go into this expecting the approach of I'm going to be very successful from this.
Yeah.
That is a wrong reason to do doing this. Yes, but that also has the potential to maybe not work either.
Yeah. You know, everything has the potential to maybe not work.
Yes.
So obviously there's like a lot of risk in it, and I think, you know, most of us probably have some high level of crazy to do what we do, especially for ponies. I mean, come on.
Or sirens. Don't forget about them.
Well, it's either that or drugs.
Well, I don't do drugs, so I know I'm just.
So you do ponies.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: we are a fandom of an older thing that is no longer popular. Meaning that unless it's resurrected again, a lot masses of the
No
universe.
longer popular, but
As I said, the air quotes were implied.
I feel like Star Trek fans would look at us and say, yeah, we relate to you a lot, but things are going to get better. And then worse, and then better.
Yeah,
And we don't mess with Star Wars because that's always been mainstream. It's just had waves.
ponies have already become like as popular as anime and furries, so we're already in
Ponies are pretty popular.
the big three of cringe, as some would say.
Hey, like, I will say this though. Whatever happened to like ponifying stuff and recruiting people into this fandom? Why have you
They're
become
still
so crappy
bonafide
at
stuff.
that?
They still are.
Not much. Not as much as it used to. The internet used to be infested with memes about that stuff.
Unfortunately, some passions bend them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, it's even possible to like make if you ever want to, if your passion project is going to involve with ponies, do it, because it's possible.
I think-
and it is possible to make your own pony stories in your own world and your own creation.
I will say as well, if you are like, what's the word? If you're apprehensive to get into the fandom because you feel like, oh, there are all these amazing creators already doing stuff way cooler than I could do, why even bother? I would say, especially right now, more so than ever before, people are just so incredibly grateful that things are even still being made. That no matter what you put out, people are probably going to appreciate it and love it to death.
Yes.
So do not be afraid to put your work out there and just share it.
And don't think that it's too childish. You know, Walt Disney is famous for saying, like, that's the real trouble with the world, is that too many people grow up.
Yeah.
And it's the thing, like, adulting sucks. I think most of us can agree with that. If art is a form of expression and you like to express with ponies, that technically is a form of self-care. So who cares what other people think? Like, do what you want. If you're not putting other people down in the process, like, do it. Do what makes you happy.
So
It's also worth noting that lots of people are going to be like, it's too late, like we're so far in the fandom. If I start now, and one thing I'd like to remember to remind people is that back in 2013, I was at HarmonyCon 2013, people were already talking about the fandom that was about to die.
No, they've done a podcast about it.
So it will be fine.
So last thing I want to say before we get into the Q&A part where y'all can ask questions. To that point, the fandom really isn't dead. And, you know, a lot of people say that, but they don't know that for sure. I do. because I run a little website called Daily Dose of Pony, and it's a competitor to Equestrian Daily. And there's going to be a panel about that tomorrow, 4:45 in this room. Come to it. But there was we just with like subscribing to small creators that were putting out stuff. There was such a volume of pony content in a week that we like it's just unmanageable. It is ridiculous how much pony content there is still out there, and it is being seen by people. So continue making it. This fandom is not dead.
Yeah.
Man.
We are at over 500 episodes, getting close to 600. And almost every week, we have at least an hour, if not two, of full videos. And due to respect from the runner of the show, we stop halfway through so people can be like, if you are interested in this video, it's in the show notes. Go watch it.
Yep.
And that has basically been the thing. And his thing, we are more or less an archive of early fandom that was able to be caught. Because that's 10 years. Those videos may be delisted, deleted, or just no longer there.
Well, that's what the Pony Archive is for.
Yeah.
All right, so Q&A time. If y'all have questions for us, you better have questions for us, because I don't want to sit here awkwardly last time with nobody raising their hands, like at the other panel. Venture,
Okay,
speak
so-
up. I can't hear you over the crying children.
Okay, so this is a question that's I think's been up. How or have you guys ever been concerned? Is my work going to result in Hasbro sending me a cease and desist?
Yes, I've been concerned about that. I think every one of us here has been concerned about that.
Yes, I had my
You have no
brief scare
idea.
of that
You have
too.
no freaking
He has a
idea.
lot of anxiety about it. So the thing is, knowing the law is important. You want to know the crappy thing is, the law is very poorly written.
Convoluted?
It's very convoluted. Like, and copyright law and trademark law are different. Like, you can't say My Little Pony French was magic. That will get you shut down.
Basically, you
It's a
cannot
trademark.
profit off of other characters.
But, you know, the idea of Pony is, like, the idea of Pony, you can do that, right? You can do that and get away with it. So many other actual shows have gotten away with it. But if you start like, it's Equestria, it's in Canterlot, you got Princess Twilight, you know, you're starting to become a derivative, and that's where it gets really messy. So, best thing to do is, if you're gonna make it a commercial project, make it your OCs in your own original world. People will still inhale it because it's Pony.
It's also worth noting that a lot of CMDs we've had in the past where people were really approaching the show style, the show.
Yeah.
Jan Animations
Yeah,
is a good
that's-
example of that.
No,
Yes, that
Those
is-
are the Jan animations.
So it's worth noting that there's an extreme misinterpretation about why things got C&D. The primary reason, if you actually read the C&Ds from Jan Animations and from Equestria Tales, that game, and I think there was another one.
I think it's magic.
I didn't read that one. I think they got hit for a trademark of using My Little Pony.
Like they're using the trademark My Little Pony, but
And the
fighting
characters.
it.
Well, they're using the trademark names too, and they
And
were using
assets,
actual
too.
assets. But anywho, Jan Animations and Equestrian Tales, I think it was called, they came so close to looking like the show that if you saw it, you would easily confuse it with official Hasbro content, and Hasbro did not like that because it could easily damage their brand, right? And so that's why things like SFM doesn't really get hit that much, or 3D projects, because they don't look close to the show. So it's not that big of a deal. Any other questions? What? You first. Speak up.
Now, given all this fandom, what is the one project that you are sad to see go, but kind of happy if you knew anything behind the scenes?
Ambient light.
I can vouch for that.
Any what?
Ambient light.
Oh, anyway. Oh, yeah.
Anybody else?
That,
What?
there was one project that I really wanted to do, but it got canceled because my friend just gave up social media completely. And we were going to do an Equestria Girls Yu-Gi-Oh crossover called Dueling Dimensions.
Yeah, and I was in that
Yeah,
voice.
Shadow was voicing in it. I was one of the artists, And sadly, the creator decided to drop everything and left social media for good, because it's been putting him through a lot of mental health problems. And yeah,
Anybody else?
Before I started my project, I joined another animator's attempt at animating Fallout Equestria so that I could write him a script. Obviously, no, it was way after Stable Tech, but I won't name any names. But he gave up doing his project, and that was what gave me the inspiration to go off and make my own. So I would say, in a sense, I am a little grateful that that project did fall through, because it gave me the motivation to go and just do it myself.
Same here with Andy.
You want something done right.
And yeah,
My question goes as follows: how justify you, or how dare you have more than one thing going on? Because like you, besides Dimensional Shift, you're doing the Pony website.
Yes.
You're doing sound design for other
Yes.
people. How do you? It's like.
How do I do
every
that?
time I think of myself like, oh, I could do this on the side. I'm like, wait, but I could instead spend that time to work on more actions.
Well, here's
And
the thing.
It's like, it's to nobody's benefit for me to have several incomplete projects rather than one complete one. So I should focus maximally.
Okay, so
How do you-
basically, to I guess paraphrase for those who didn't hear, he's asking me like, how do I justify working on a bunch of other projects as well as working on Dimensional Shift instead of spending all my time on Dimensional Shift? The thing is that I don't have complete control of the project like you do. I'm not the programmer. Arizel's the programmer, so I'm bottlenecked by him. At the same time,
That's fair.
even though I am the co-owner of the company and I'm the producer of the company, I do not have the complete final say. We have a core team of very design intelligent artists who really moderate and manage the whole project and make sure that the whole thing is going in a good direction. And so, I can't just go off and start doing stuff because that would be a waste of my time. So, at the same time, doing these other things is actually helping me learn more skills and better my own skills to then help it with this project too. Like my sound design skills are way better now because I've worked on these people's projects and this one. And it really honestly is. Before I really didn't know how to mix vocals, but because I was forced to mix her vocals a million times, I had to learn how to mix vocals, right? Properly and make it sound good. So, it can really benefit you to do side projects because it will help you learn skills that you otherwise didn't. You probably would have learned much later, but you would have needed much earlier, if that makes sense.
Because that's a good answer.
It's also worth noting that there's a lot of projects, even if you're code professional, that are going to have deadline. So, for example, in my case, I'm waiting for voice actors for some money, so I realized that I don't have the creative drive to do some animation. One of the things I do is that I have a YouTube short series where I basically just talk about the stuff that's also related to animation, like how to, there's some technical details about rigs.
You have to speak up, man. I can't even hear you over the show.
Yeah.
No, I can hear him fine over here, but I understand. The kid's all out.
But yeah, you have dead time that you have to fill it with. Want to have something that you want to keep going, to keep things rolling. And sometimes you find small tasks you can do on your own project, but sometimes you want to fill it in with something else that you want to complete, so you have the field and you finalize something and you can actually show something complete. And sometimes having those tiny projects on the side can help.
Yes.
For me, there's the shorts, there's Pony's the anthology, and there's...
You wanted to say something?
Yeah. Well, he covered some of it, but basically, also, like you said, I have like a big animation I'm doing, like a music video that I've been working on for like quite some time. But I keep taking a break from it to work on smaller animations and projects and stuff. And basically, in the meantime, I've learned a lot about animation and stuff like that. So, whenever I finally get done with that music video, it's going to be strange in fact that the end of my music video will look a lot better than the beginning of my music video, just because I've learned and done so much in the process of making that one music video. So yes, taking a break does help you learn with a lot of other things.
That and also just project dead time, like I said, Aruzel's kind of my bottleneck right now. So just him finishing up the stuff, and we have 2 other programmers now, but even still, I can't really do much on that right now, so I might as well be doing something about it.
Yeah, I guess my problem is being a programmer.
Yeah, there you go. You had a question.
Yeah, actually, it was kind of adding on to this. Somebody who's helped edit like novel-length fan fiction. Someone who has helped edit novel-length fan fiction. I'm actually adding on to this. You kind of want to have side projects because eventually you will get tired, like you will get burned out of your own project. And working on other side projects will actually like re-energize you and be like, oh, I really like this process, even though when I'm already tired of my project. And then it will give you the energy to go back to your main project. That's all.
Sometimes I love working on short, silly things. While in the meantime, it is really like freeing.
We have 5 more minutes, or
I got
less 5 more minutes.
I got one great
Yeah, you
example.
got 5.
I got one great example too. Like I recently got hired for an animated short by someone, and I'm one of their colorists. And thank God, it's not gonna take so much of my time away, because all I am is just coloring completed the line art shots. And it's actually motivating because like doing smaller projects keeps you motivated and to keep doing your bigger projects. I'm also finishing up a master class in storyboarding, just to keep my momentum in storyboarding improve a lot more. And it's been doing wonders for me for the last 2 months.
Any last questions?
Good balance, dude.
Any last questions? Anybody? This is your last chance.
I'll be gone forever.
Don't pull us aside. Yes, outlaw.
What are your opinions on restarting an abandoned project? Like, let's say somebody gives the assets to somebody else.
Like someone else abandoned a project and now you're like taking up
or
the...
somebody says, I don't want to do this anymore, or this is not my thing anymore, and donates whatever else they have.
Several very important to the fandom projects have been like this. For example, My Little Karaoke, the guy who develops it now took it over from a guy who developed it. It has traded 3 pairs of hands. Even Ashes has leadership has changed twice.
It's the same with the top 10 pony videos, how Saber Spark did it and Jay Holler.
Yep.
Now Little Shy.
I mean, I think if you have the ability to do it and you have the consent to do it, definitely. I don't see any problem with that. I think it's if
they trust you with it.
Yeah, should they trust you?
The major issue is mostly just trying to follow the vision of your own creator. So there's some different ways to do that. Some people will try to inject their own vision. For example, when Little Shy decided to do the top 10 voting video, he had his own approach on how he would handle it. Then you got some narration involved. He really wanted to do something different. And it's quite interesting because you get to see a different soul involved into that kind of project. It's really shocking.
I wouldn't consider this abandoned, but Xiao and I have been doing the How It Should Have Ended series, and it's basically it's just like an inspiration, paying respect to the original How It Should Have Ended animated series on YouTube, and we're just doing our own spin and our own original.
That's called a parody.
A parody, basically. It's using our own spin, our own humor, our own dialogue jokes, our own jokes, and just throw some funny roasting on some LLP episodes that could have been fixed in seconds.
But as always, that's a base.
Yeah, we gotta get out of
Sorry, I'm cutting this mic. We need to. The staff is mentioned this to
they're
get
gonna get mad
up.
at us.
So,
We ran out of
ran out of time. Thanks for coming, guys.
Bye. It was nice talking to you. Hey, did you learn how to not screw